Hey, Julianne, long time coming on this one, right?
I know, yeah. I've been meaning to.
I said, come on, Coffee Talk. Maybe November of last year. November, December. Here we are in the summer. Maybe the beginning of 2021. How are you?
I'm good. How are you? Thank you for having me.
You're absolutely welcome. I feel honored, honestly, for a media person such as yourself to come on, talk to us, Port Jefferson and beyond.
Yes.
We're now reaching beyond Port Jefferson. And I think people mostly obviously know you for your great writings in this paper and 3 Eastern papers in total from TBR News
Yes.
Media. And we'll get to that. But first I wanted to thank you for covering what we just did and we were really proud of, which was Port Palooza. That came on July 31st, a nice summer concert series. I am probably most glad that we had the weather of the summer.
Yeah.
We really did. We were really lucky. We had, as you know, 8 acts. All local bands with the exception of, Peace, Love, and local music with the exception of our last act, which was the Frank Catalano Quartet. It was going to be a trio. I do want to mention this. I really want to shout out to our friend Frank Catalano, who came in from Chicago. And we were lucky enough to get a local bass player.
Oh, very cool.
Keenan, Zach, that lives in Quorum, if you can believe it or not. So real local man, came on bass, the stand-up bass. I think people that were there were really, I think they were shocked that this kind of jazz can come to Port Jefferson. My favorite quote of the day was, thank you for bringing jazz to this desert. Mm-hmm. And I totally got it. What he meant was, look, great town, great village, but we don't normally see this. So that was really cool.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it was definitely a cool event. I haven't seen anything like it, and it was really fun to cover. I got very sunburned, though. Should have wore sunblock.
Well, you recovered.
I did.
You recovered beautifully. I also did, yeah.
Yeah.
We were trying to keep people undercover. Shout out to Andrew for actually shading the stage. Otherwise, we were really going to have some lawsuits. Yeah. So we'll get to the paper in a second. I want to know a little bit about you, and I'm sure a lot of people out there listening do. Where are you from?
So I grew up in Hicksville. And then in high school, I moved to Ronkonkoma, so I graduated from Connecticut High School in 2010.
Big school. Very
big school, yeah. And after Connecticut, I went to Suffolk Community College, and for 3 years, I studied, journalism there. And then I transferred to Stony Brook, where I obviously majored in journalism again, a little bit of sociology, and I had a minor in dance. So, which has not helped me in journalism world, but it was fun at the time.
Right, but forms of expression.
Yes, I guess maybe that's what helped me become so outgoing, to be able to talk to people, talk to strangers. It's funny, my mom always said, don't talk to strangers, and now I made a living out of it, so.
Very nice.
Yeah.
So I met your brother, actually, at the event, and obviously he loves some sort of media, right? Because he's podcasting, and he's got a DJ show, which I'm starting to subscribe to and get to know that. What about your family structure? What was it about it that made you go into media, writing, journalism?
That's a very good question. I don't know why I chose this. I've always really liked, reading and writing as a kid. And then, as I got into high school, I got really into fashion and culture and music and things like that. So, when I would watch movies like 13 Going on 30 or How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days or The Devil Wears Prada, stupid movies like that.
That's a great movie.
It is a very good movie, but, all very girly movies. I was like, oh my God, I want to work for a magazine. I want to work for Vogue. I want to work for Cosmo. So that became my life goal. And, throughout my college experience, I only covered fashion, culture, music. I didn't do any news, which would always really annoy my professors and stuff because they wanted us to, go out and do hard news, and I refused to do it. I hated it.
Good for you.
So I was always the outcast in college, and instead of focusing on my studies, which I probably should have done more, I focused on getting internships and freelance gigs. So I wrote for a couple celebrity websites at the time, and that was cool because, I was 20 and interviewing celebrities. So that was really fun, whereas my classmates were, going to the bench and partying and stuff, and I was not. I was hanging out with, Travis Barker from Blink-182.
Very cool.
And Ted Nugent, which was a story in itself. And then I got an internship at Cosmo magazine, which was a dream come true. I was one out of there was 4 interns at the time. I was one of the 4 out of 10,000 applicants across the country. So that was really cool. and I was the first Stony Brook, student to ever intern there. And that was a ball, as you could imagine, being a young girl in her early 20s, working in Manhattan at Cosmo. It was really, really cool. And then I graduated. There was no jobs in TV, in newspapers or anything, so I went into TV.
Okay.
And while I was working at Showtime Networks, it was an operations job, so it was like very technology driven. It wasn't the most exciting, but
overnights, things like that.
Overnights, yeah, 12-hour shifts. Not a very female-based group. Like there was only 3 girls at the time working there, but it was fine. It was cool. I got to learn some different things. But the cool thing about it was I was basically a cop. Like I worked 3 days on, 2 days off, whatever. So I would get these awesome days off where I could go report on stuff and build my brand as a freelancer. And then that's kind of what led me to really fall in love with community news, which is something I never thought I would like. And I had my opportunities to continue doing the celebrity stuff, but I kind of got sick of it. Like I thought that interviewing small business owners was more important than talking to a celebrity who's talked to 1,000,005 people.
Yeah, for the little I've done, actually I've done a lot of film-oriented film festivals and red carpets and quick things. It's contrite a lot of times. You're looking for sound bites to meet a story, and that can only, really float your creative mind so long. When you delve into a small business, you delve far. It's deep and it's tough, and it's been really tough the 18 months. So I imagine your stories got deeper and more complex over the last 18 months. So you bring that whole thing forward from TV right to print, or did you go somewhere in between?
No, I went from TV right to print. So when I was at Showtime, I was there for 4 years, and I started to get really bored and really anxious sitting there. I was kind of done with it. So my predecessor, his name was Kyle. He was the editor over at the paper before me. I was a good friend of his from college, and I was freelancing for TBR before the pandemic. Obviously, the pandemic stopped any freelancing for me for a little bit because funding was low.
Sure.
And he called me up one day, and he was like, "Hey, you want a job?" And I was like, "It's a pandemic." He said we were looking for somebody, and they took me in, and I was a reporter for a couple months. And then when Kyle left in January, I took over his 3 papers. And here I am.
Very nice. And this is the paper we're speaking about.
the
One
paper.
of 6 or one of 7?
So there's 6. There's a Huntington paper, the Times of Huntington in Northport. There's the Times of Smithtown. There's the Village Times Herald. There's the Port Times Record. There's the Village Beacon Record, and that covers from like Mount Sinai all the way out to Wading River. And then we have a paper for the Middle Country area, so Center Reach and Selden.
Right. So I think I told you this probably a couple of months ago, but I started in media, love media. It's been, I went to Oneonta. I didn't major in media, but it was a minor in journalism. But the point is that the funny thing is, when I first started my magazine, which was a real estate magazine called For Sale by Owner Magazine, I printed at the Times Beacon Record printing press. People probably don't even remember that they had one. They were printing their own papers there. So when they weren't printing their paper, they lent their printing press out for dollars, obviously. And so we were one of their magazines, and it was great. I did that for the first, I want to say 2 years, and then we got pretty big, so we went on to Mid-Atlantic in Shirley, and then did at least 10 years there. But good times. I wish I remembered the main press foreman. It was great times. It's a business that keeps you up at night, as you know, with deadlines. Back then, you can imagine it was not as digital.
Yeah.
But we made it happen. We actually pioneered the early Macintosh and desktop publishing, so it was really exciting. And it was quite successful. So growing a small business paper along with talking to small businesses as you do, it does. It's exciting. It keeps you going. Wow, that's great. How many stories do you do a week these days?
Oh, boy. It depends on how much is going on. Usually, I think the average is about 10 a week.
Okay, that's a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And some are smaller, some are bigger. It really all depends on what I can get done and what can fit. Sometimes the papers are a little bit bigger, sometimes they're a little smaller. But on average, it's about 10.
So we were talking also about the proliferation of local news, and I feel it's coming back. I feel that the Trump era was all about national headlines by design, And obviously you only heard about the major networks. That's just the reality. Twitter, all that has changed so much. There seems to be a focus back to local community news, which I think is wonderful. And I actually think there's an opportunity once this whole COVID thing is over for these papers like these to grow. And I think I want to hear your opinion on, to the extent you can give me your opinion on, what might be the perfect, sort of balance between digital and paper. Because you'll hear a lot of people, you hear it all the time. So, well, there's nothing as comparable as a paper. I want to hear your opinion on that. I do have to say, I'd rather read this, and I know I can see this on the issue. Is that what it's called? I do like this. You're eating an ice cream. You're reading this. I get it. I'm not really doing that on my phone. I'm really not. So, what are you thinking on the proper balance going forward?
It's funny. I'm a millennial. I'm 28, and I've always preferred to hold a newspaper. Even like before I was writing for them, I would actually pick up a copy. I hated reading stuff on my phone. I'm on my phone enough as it is, just texting people. And also, if you're in the paper, it's cool to have the copy. So we actually get a lot of families come by our office and they pick up
multiple papers,
30 papers. They come in and they spend a lot of money just getting copies of the paper because their kid was on the front page.
That's so true.
And I think it's really cute because then you could hold on to that. It's tangible.
Yeah.
Online it's great. I think that there has to be a balance because you want people to be able to read the news, and our company is actually very nice because we don't have any paywalls. Even the issue has no paywalls. You can literally read the paper.
Do you know if they ever experimented with that?
I don't know, if not in my time.
It's a tough thing because it is annoying. You go to New York Times and you have a paywall, and you know that story most times is maybe not written as well, but it's someplace else.
Yeah.
So I don't know how I feel about that. I guess the answer is if the sponsors, the advertisers are paying enough to keep the media company afloat, there's your answer. Then it's going to be free.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I know that my publisher, Leah, she's had said to us, that our job is to get information out there. So why would we block, somebody from reading it?
Right.
And, if there's something going on, even some of the bigger, newspapers on Long Island, they're starting to do it. And if something's going on in your town, if something's happening in Port Jefferson that you need to know about, how are you going to read about it?
Right.
And especially if it was a week ago, the paper's not out on stands anymore. You can't go pick it up.
Right.
So I do think that there has to be a balance where we post stuff online, but it is really nice to have the hard copy so you could hold on to it if you're in it or something like that.
Do you often try to reverse critique people's approach to taking in news? What I mean by that is in a world where we have the attention spans of gnats and we're reading a Twitter feed, do you outwardly notice that and really, to your credit, say, hey, look, there's some work that's gone into this. There's some reporting, there's some investigation, and there's some attention to detail.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
Yeah. Social media has been the best and the worst thing for us because you go on Facebook and people become their own public relations officer.
Yeah.
So, or they'll spread rumors, if something bad happens in the village, they start posting lies because that's just what they assume. And then when the media comes in, they don't share the article. And I actually talked to the police and I talked to the officials and I talked to whoever was there, the witnesses. So that gets really frustrating that people would rather believe.
Well, they're becoming their own TMZ for sensationalism, sort of.
That's part of it.
Wow, that's really frustrating.
And it is because, like you said, I spend a lot of time, making sure everything is factual and, fair. I try to talk to as many people as I can. If it's a story that's that serious where you need to get both sides of it. But, it's unfortunate that I feel like a lot of people love local news, but they also don't want to read it, or they only look at the headlines. And that's a huge problem that I have. So, they see Cole's picture here and Peace, Love, and Local Music, and they're like, oh yeah, so he performed at the concert, that's great. And they won't read about the other people that were there. Or
what we did it for.
What you did it for, exactly. Did people know that money went to the Star Foundation? I don't know, So that's where it gets kind of frustrating because it takes a lot of time to
It
do
does.
this stuff.
It does. I know. It's miraculous what you do. Honestly, everybody that's in the, the true industry of journalism, if we want to call it that. So let's talk about, like, what do you do for fun? Because you lead a life that's constantly deadline. It's weekly deadline. So I can imagine your week is literally laid out for you. You're collecting, you're researching, you're writing, you're publishing, you're some part of distribution, I'm sure, or at least, knowing that things are out there. So it's a cycle. It's a weekly cycle. So, for a few hours a week, you must break that up a little.
Yes.
What do you love to do personally?
Well, as I said, I was a dance minor at Stony Brook, and I've been dancing since I was 2, so we're going on about 25, 26 years of dancing on and off. And there's actually a really fun adult dance studio in Smithtown that I wrote a story about years ago, and that's how I found out about it. It's owned by a girl my age. She's 29, and it's a drop-in adult dance studio. So you go in there and you get to learn a choreography, you get to stretch, you get to hang out with some friends, and that's it. Like, it's no commitment, which is really fun. So I could just go in there and dance and have some fun and learn a routine, and then I go home. So
very cool.
That's what I do. I dance.
Yeah, you relieve stress and obviously get the talent out there. That's great. I think we can mention that we have a mutual friend, Amanda. She dances sometimes with you, right? Or actually teaches dancing,
She
right?
teaches, yeah. She has this really awesome program. It's called Fantastic Heels, and it's basically just, learning how to empower yourself through dance. You get to wear your favorite pair of shoes, and you just dance to Beyonce or Britney Spears. It's very empowering. And I've had friends of mine come in who were very shy people, and then they let loose, and they're like, "Oh my God, I feel so great!" Yeah,
that's wonderful.
Yeah, it's fun.
What about your side and your love of music? Do you have any history of music, or is somebody in your family a musician? I know you kind of.
I've dated a lot of musicians.
You have. Okay. Speaking about, my God, we have to speak about that. First of all, I told you this online. Your pictures for your, I guess, a pre-engagement, we'll call that.
Yeah.
And we'll show them in the background as I speak, these TWA pictures. I mean, I happen to like, what's the name of the show on HBO? The 60s advertising show? Mad Men.
Yeah.
And that's what, you were looking for, I'm sure. What a look. It was just so awesome. Tell me about that. What inspired you for that?
So I'm a very old soul. I have always been the type of person that would wear vintage clothes, instead of the normal, look. And I've always loved the 60s culture and 50s culture and stuff like that. So the TWA museum is in JFK, and we saw that it looks really cool. It's very vintagey looking. So instead of doing your typical, Long Island bride and groom engagement shoot in a field or at the beach or in the woods, I didn't want pictures in the woods. I wasn't going into the woods. So I bought a couple of vintage dresses, and I forced my fiance, and he was such a great sport about it.
He was?
Yeah, not a lot of guys would do that.
He played the part well, too. I mean, you wouldn't know. Again, I'll show the pictures in the background. It looked really it was natural. It was it was what you wanted.
It was really fun. So we got to take some pictures there, and it was fun to dress up, and yeah.
Now, did you need permission to do that, or you just kind of made it happen quickly?
Kind of made it happen.
Yeah.
So I'm getting married in April. My photographer is actually based in Stony Brook over here. They're Yellow House Images. They're phenomenal people, and the photographer Andrew, he came out with us. He reached out to the airport asking the terminal asking if we needed permission.
It was probably a lot of red tape. You got to ask this. You got to this.
Yeah, they basically said, you
better to ask for forgiveness.
Yeah, so what we did, to be fair, and it actually benefited us. We were able to rent a room for a midday.
Oh, perfect.
A couple hour long thing.
I knew you were that kind of girl.
Yeah. That's me, yeah. So it was cool, though, because I didn't have to carry all 17 of my outfits that I bought, which was probably way too much at the time, but I like to shop. That's another thing I do in my free time, shop.
Okay.
Yeah. And
online, or now here's a big question: online or in store, or both?
I do.
You go to
I do try
vintage
to shop.
stores.
No, well, I do go to vintage stores, but I do try to shop local. I do shop around here in the village. I like to, because I live in the village now, so I try to shop local as much as I can, but those dresses came from vintage stores and from Amazon. I'm sorry. They did come from Amazon.
Yeah, but whatever makes the look happen. Yeah, beautiful.
So yeah, we rented a room, and that's where we were able to like drop our bags and to change, and I got to fix my makeup and all that fun stuff. And we spent a couple of hours there, and we just took pictures, and they're so cool. Like I'm
It's
so
so
excited by
cool.
it. Yeah, we got a lot of compliments on them.
And they were beautiful, absolutely. And then you just had you announced an engagement when? Let's just go through this whole thing. When are you getting married? The whole thing. We're getting your life out here now.
Okay, yeah. So my fiance, his name is JD Allen. He is also a journalist.
Really?
Yeah, yeah.
Didn't know that.
Yeah, so he works for WSHU Public Radio up in Connecticut and
Okay.
Stony Brook. So as you can imagine, we're both very depressed all the time at dinner, just talking about the daily events that happen.
Yeah.
But it's cool. So we met in school. We met in journalism school. He tried very hard to date me for years, and I never gave him a chance. He sat behind me in class. He would always ask me to get coffee, and I always said no. And then I finally was done, hanging out with the drummers and the guitarists. So I went to JD.
Awesome.
And we've been together since
You're
2016
going to be a hell of a lot better off, believe me.
Yes, definitely. I've learned that already. He actually plays music too, so like he's not a complete.
Right.
He's still my type. And we got engaged last August 1st, during the pandemic. He apparently had my ring for months. He had it since 2019, and
Wow.
he kept it hidden in the desk drawer, and I had no idea. For Christmas, I thought I was getting my ring, and instead he bought me a pair of Crocs, which he thought was hysterical, and I did not.
What, 2020 December, or no, 2019 December.
Yeah,
Okay.
so he had the ring up until from November 2019.
He was
to-
just waiting for the pandemic first?
Yeah,
Gotcha.
the pandemic kind of screwed everything up.
Yeah.
I think he originally was going to propose to me in March, and then COVID, and then he made a couple different plans, and everything
Okay.
just kept falling through. So then in August 2020, he asked my parents for permission, and they said good luck, and here I am.
Old school. Very nice.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you,
My
yeah.
son this week just also got engaged.
Oh, congrats! It's so
Yes.
exciting.
Yep. Very good. My oldest son. So love is in the air. So here we are in the middle of August, 2021. What kind of things are you working on story-wise now? What's happening? And you don't you feel like October's in the air? Like I'm seeing like literal Halloween stuff out there now.
Yeah.
So you might be. I'm sure you are planning for stories that come in the fall right now.
Yeah, I mean, like, school starting up in general is always
Yeah.
a big deal, because my papers alone, I think I have 10 or 11 school districts that I have to keep an eye on. And that's not including the 3 Western papers that we have. And then election season's always in November, so that's always a very heavy
Right.
conversation to
Right.
do. It's funny, they always say that in the summertime, news is actually very quiet. Not a lot happens. But I feel like this year in particular, it's been so busy because
Yeah.
everything's
That's right.
back to normal-ish
Yeah.
for now.
Well, even traffic has been overwhelming.
Yes.
In the village, I think I told you this, traffic, people coming to the village is now pre-pandemic levels plus.
Yeah.
So Long Island Expressway, the whole deal. So people are making up for time. Hopefully it stays that way in some kind of
I kind of hate
way,
it.
shape, or
I
fashion.
remember when I was working in Hop Hog.
No,
at
that's
the
a good
TV
point.
station. I would get from Hop Hog to Port Jefferson in literally like 15 minutes,
Yeah,
just
that's
driving
nice.
down 347. It was so wonderful. But now it's like,
Not like that.
now it takes like 25 minutes just to get out of the village, which is so annoying.
Yeah, it is. So things that are coming up that you of interest?
Well, I'm going to be covering the hill climb that's happening this week, the 1910.
I'll be there as well.
Yeah,
We think we're going to live stream it.
Okay, very cool. Yeah, I didn't know that was a thing. I didn't grow up here,
Mm-hmm.
so a lot of this stuff is really new to me.
Well, it doesn't happen every year, by the way. I think it happens every 3 to 5 years.
Okay, yeah, I have to double check on that. But still, I mean, like, we didn't have that in Ronkonkoma, so
Right.
or Hicksville. So, that should be fun.
Mm-hmm.
I have a bunch of new businesses have been popping up around town, not just here, but in Port Jeff Station and, Miller Place, Rocky Point. A lot of really good stuff is happening, and it's really nice to see.
By the way, I mentioned or stopped in to see that CBD place,
Yeah.
and Dee said that you were in there and you just covered it.
Yeah.
What a beautiful store.
Oh, yeah, she's fantastic. It's
Yeah.
such a cool store. I'm working on that story now, so I'm not sure if it'll be in this week or next
good,
week, but
good.
I'm doing a feature on her, and she's so knowledgeable, and if you're into CBD or if you want to try it, like, she is totally the person to go to because she's so knowledgeable, and, supposedly it could help you with whatever ailment you have in a more holistic way.
Absolutely.
And holistic
Absolutely.
is good, you know.
It's great. Yeah, absolutely. So Julianne, tell me, how do you approach taking in stories where people have events, they have local news, they want the world to know, or at least the local world to know about something they're up to? How do you approach that, and what do you like to see in that?
So when I took over the paper, my goal was to not be Newsday or News 12, you know, or the New York Times or ABC 7 or whatever other bigger, you know, media company is out there. I wanted to be the paper that was showing your kids, you know, playing softball or baseball or soccer, you know, the community people who are doing good stuff for other people, you know, especially during the pandemic. A lot of charity happened, which was really nice. That wasn't being covered.
Right.
You know, kind of like I said, I did a lot of stories on celebrities. You know, even local celebrities or, you know, businesses that constantly get media attention with the bigger papers and everything. I wanted to be the person to kind of give people who don't get the voice to have their own voice and to talk about it.
Sure.
And talk about whatever they are doing. So, you know, I'm always looking for stories. I'm always looking for people to send me stuff. Sometimes it's maybe not as timely as other things, so that's really what it comes down to.
Sure. I mean, we talked about this a little. The challenge is if somebody has a piece of news or they want to get out in the world, it's literally a Facebook or social media post away. Mm-hmm. The problem is the important details are missed a lot. The eloquence of writing, which counts, mm-hmm. is oftentimes missing. Pictures could be atrocious. And then again, it's only reaching their friends group, mm-hmm. the people that follow them. So the media, be it as it be right here in terms of TBR News Media, is reaching the entire community. Mm-hmm. So that's a big difference.
Right. And like you said, you know, we're a weekly, so when people are just posting something that's happening online, or even other publications that are dailies or have very strong web presences, they're writing what they hear, and then they may not update it right away.
Right.
You know, by the time my stories come out, I've done a lot of research. I've talked to a lot of people. You know,
so your sources. I mean, we talk about social media and how it could not be so good and negative, but sometimes it allows you to get multiple sources, mm-hmm. so you can get the story correct. Mm-hmm. So in that way, it's good, and you get immediate contact.
Yeah.
Let's face it, right? You're seeing something. Facebook message them, hey, I'm Julianne. Would you mind talking to me about this? So that's kind of cool that way.
Yeah, like, you know, it has its pros and it has its cons, you know, just like anything in life. But, you know, you just got to figure out how to work it, you know, the best way that you can.
How many articles do you think you've written in your life?
In my life?
Yeah.
Oh, geez.
Your long life.
My long life. Well, I've been freelancing and writing, like being a published author for about 10 years now. I started like right out of high school. I was just submitting stuff to places. I've written for Long Island Business News. I've written for Newsday. I've written for Greater Long Island, The List magazine on the South Shore, Long Island Advance, Cosmo, Dan's Papers.
Wow.
And then
Hundreds, if not over 1,000.
Probably over 1,000 at this point, yeah.
That's great. I mean, that's experience, amazing experience.
Some are better than others, you know.
Sure, but each time you're honing your skill.
Yeah. It's funny, you know, looking at like my very first article that I wrote for the Compass newspaper at Suffolk. Horrible. Absolutely horrible. I think I spelled definitely wrong, like, and nobody caught it. So it's funny to see, you know, how much you can grow in just like 10 years if you just keep doing what you're doing.
Right, absolutely. Do you cover local government from time to time?
I do. Yeah, you know, I cover a lot of the stuff that's happening in the village.
Yep.
Town of Brookhaven, you know, now with everything happening with Governor Cuomo.
You'll cover that to an extent?
Yeah, but
on a state level?
Yeah, we try to make it as local as we can, though.
Will you get local opinions?
Yes.
Well, that's cool. You need that.
So we'll talk to like the state senators around here, the assemblymen, and even like the legislators, or
That's going to be a fun one for you to get through, right? Because people are going to be charged up about that. Let's face it.
Last week actually, it was in this paper. We had one where when the paperwork came out about him, we got quotes from all the local politicians about saying that he should resign.
Right.
And now, as of today, he has resigned. So I expect something in the next couple of days, probably, about what people are saying about him resigning.
On that note, no, we're going to end on a very positive note. It's been a pleasure talking to you.
Yeah,
Thank you
thank
for
you.
so much for coming in to
Of
Coffee
course.
Talk. And hey, we'll follow up on you and your next adventures out there.
Yeah.
You
And
know?
if anybody listening or watching this has story ideas, you can email me at Julianne, Julianne, at tbrnewsmedia.com. I'm always looking for stories. If you have tips, I'm easy to get to. I don't sleep. Drink a lot of coffee.
Thanks again.
Thank you.